planning to focus primarily on question answers. So are there already some, okay. Are there already some questions that you have written down, or would you like to start with? We have a mic? Yes. Some questions which you not answered in the morning or previous sessions, we could start with that. Yes, please.
Prabhu, you described how there are 4 paths, philosophical, social paths, how people are attracted to God. Is there any preaching application to, can you tell me what is the preaching application of this? Like some people, they are attracted by the social atmosphere, and if they see something wrong socially, then they will.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would like to clarify is that those 4 paths may not be exhaustive. They are broadly indicative that there are different ways in which people may be attracted toward Krishna. So, different people have different reasons why they come. And we try to put them in some categories. But, like say, if you say, some people may want to come because they want to help their children get some samskaras. So parents come, but the parents don't want to come for the programs. They just want their kids to come, they drop the kids and go away. So now, is that a social need? You could say some kind of social need. It's not their personal social need, but they want their children to be hanging out with good people, people whom they consider good. So, these are 4 broad categories. They need not be exhaustive. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains that realization, or rather, speaking with realization. What it means is that he says we take the message of scripture and we find the interests of the audience. So he says to speak with realization means that we should speak the message of scripture, but speak it in a way that is interesting for the audience. So for that purpose, in one sense, the speaker has to study the scripture, but speaker also has to study the audience. So what is the interest of the audience? Now interest is a generic word. We could have the word nice. You know what is nice? Yes, needs, interests, concerns and expectations. So depending on what the audience is looking for, we need to be able to present accordingly. So there was a big article in the New York Times a few years ago how Christianity has rebranded God. God was traditionally the cosmic supplier. There was a famous prayer that, "O Father, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, give us our daily bread." So now, in most of Western society, most people are not concerned about bread. You know, in America, if you go, even the poor people are fat. They may be poor in terms of that they don't have money, but nobody starves because the government has soup kitchens, and often the government food that they give is unhealthy food. Like they have contracts with Big Macs and something like that, where the government, basically it's a whole thing that people don't starve. In India, starvation might be an issue, but in the West it is not. So they have rebranded God not as a cosmic supplier, but as a cosmic therapist. Like you pray to God and you'll become peaceful. You pour your heart out to God, unburden yourself, God is your friend. So now, is this kind of God as a vision there in the Bible? Well, it's there to some extent. But it was never emphasized in the past. Now it's being much more emphasized. So we may talk about, say, mantra chanting for stress management. We have stress. Now if you go in the Yoga Sutra or you go the Bhagavad Gita, is stress management a topic over there? No. Now can the Gita's wisdom be applied for stress management? It can be applied. So if we say Gita wisdom for enlightenment, I will say, okay, you know, Gita is for enlightenment. I am not interested in enlightenment, get lost. So people, it may not be very relevant for people. So it is the expertise of the speaker to be able to understand what are the interests of the audience and then present the message accordingly. Like I said, when Prabhupada came to India, still Indians, in 1970 when he came back, people were not interested in Indians in philosophical spirituality still. But there was a lot of cultural national pride. That, we Indians, we were ruled by Westerners. Now our Indian culture is being adopted by the Westerners. So Prabhupada tapped into that. That was the interest, and Prabhupada used that interest. There's a big Sadhu Samaj program where different leaders from different traditions had come and different organizations, they were all speaking. And Prabhupada, instead of speaking, he asked his devotees to come on the stage and start doing kirtans. And everybody went there, like 40,000 people were there in the audience. Everybody went wild to see these Westerners in dhoti kurta and sari dancing and singing. And some of the couples also had children. The children were also dancing on the stage. So, and Prabhupada said, I don't have to speak anything. You have seen yourself how this Harinam can transform people. So the point is, when we talk with people, we also try to understand. Now, where is this person coming from? What are their needs? And then we can try to see what aspect of scripture we can present to them. So, like if somebody is coming from a scientific background, science is very important for them, then we may present some scientific aspects of Krishna consciousness. But for those who are not from a scientific background so much, now everybody likes to think that I am scientific. But not many people are either interested in science or even capable of understanding scientific concepts. Like somebody asked me a scientific technical question, there are 3 problems. First is that the rest of the audience doesn't understand the concept. Second is the questioner doesn't understand the concept. The third is I don't understand the concept. But the thing is that not many people, some people are interested in science. So in Stanford I spoke on the topic of, is consciousness reducible to brain phenomena? Now how many people are actually, if you do this as a one-time program in India, maybe that is the only one time we will be invited to do the program. Yad gatva ananivartanti. So, not many people may be interested in that. But Stanford has a whole, consciousness studies is like one of the most promising fields of research in neuroscience. It's like a combination of various areas. There's neuroscience, there is AI, there is cognitive behavioral therapy in mindfulness. A lot of fields, they are intersecting in neuroscience. Sorry, in consciousness studies. So it's a big field for those who are really into scientific research. So it depends on which audience we are trying to reach. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as 2 days ago you were saying about 2 concepts. One was borrowed conviction and another was personal conviction. So what I could understand that whatever you are telling to us is from your personal conviction. So if that is your personal conviction and if we are listening to that, so that is also some sort of borrowed conviction. And you also told that borrowed conviction will not work. So my real question is this also really a borrowed conviction that we are taking from you? And okay, if this is a borrowed conviction, then how is it going to work?
See, all convictions begin as borrowed convictions. But then, as we experiment with those ideas, we try some ideas out. Then, if they work for us, then they become internalized. So, hearing, or you could say learning, reading, whatever, that is the beginning of the process of growing intellectually, of our knowledge growing. But it is that somebody else told me it is like this. That's why I'm doing it. Okay, that may work for some people for some time. But then if I encounter somebody who challenges it, or if I myself experience something which seems to not work accordingly. Pray to God and good things will happen to you in your life. And I see somebody prays to God regularly, but something terrible happens to him. Somebody else is an atheist and good things are happening to him. Then that will raise questions. So if I have not gone deeper, in the sense of, okay, how does this make sense? Okay, then there's a bigger picture I have to consider. There's also the idea of karma over there, and sometimes we have past karma which appears in our present life. So all those things we need to consider. We need to have a bigger picture. So all conviction will start as a borrowed conviction. But then Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. So when we contemplate by contemplation, gradually, you said, okay, this makes sense to me. This, maybe not now. Maybe we will not reject it, but you say, I can't accept it. So it's like, if you consider everything that we hear, what we are hearing, there are some things which we like immediately accept. Wow, this is just so true. Because maybe it... Can I have some... this will close. Thank you. So maybe this is something which is what I have already had some experience of that. And it just makes sense immediately. Some things we may have to reflect to accept. Okay, I ask some questions, I talk with others. Then some things we may not just have to reflect, we may ourselves have to evolve. Evolve means we go through some more life experiences and then we accept them. Some things we may just suspend judgment. That, this doesn't make sense to me. But the overall body of knowledge, it seems to be credible. So, I can't understand this, but it's not that important for me right now. Like somebody, for example, the whole idea of we are spiritual beings, not just physical creatures, that may make very eminent sense. But maybe the fifth canto cosmology, that may not make sense. And the two are not equally important. It's not that, like I mentioned, about the moon mission or even evolution. These are not, Krishna doesn't say at the end of your life you have to remember that man did not go to the moon, so come to me. No, that's not the point. No, that's not a core point at all. Develop love for Krishna. So some things we may just find as unacceptable. I just can't accept this. So ideally, we should try to move things up this ladder, up this hierarchy. So if something is here, then we really need to talk and analyze. But some things, okay, I can't really accept this, but it doesn't matter so much. Maybe in future I'll find somebody whom I can talk with whom I can talk and I'll get discuss and I'll get a better understanding. So all conviction will start as borrowed conviction, but from that borrowed conviction, gradually it will become internalized. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. At first, I wish to thank you for the wisdom you have been sharing. They have helped me in the past, and even at present, if I had any doubt, I would type the doubt, and at last I would write by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So your explanations are genuinely very helpful, have been helpful for me. And one doubt that I had to ask was, in today's lecture, two characteristics of the mentality of asuras were in the verse. That is, they consider themselves to be Iswar and Bhogi. What is wrong with that mentality? Because I, from my experience, feel that if I am eating something, it is only me who is enjoying the taste. If it is bitter, it is bitter for me. So I am in some sense enjoyer and the controller also. So what is wrong with that mentality? And if there is something wrong with that mentality, how can I free myself from the mentality of enjoyership and controllership?
Yeah, good question. See, there's nothing intrinsically wrong, in the sense that if you see later in the 18th chapter, in 1842, when Krishna is talking about the qualities of Kshatriyas, he says one of the qualities of a Kshatriya is Ishvara Bhava. It's 1843 actually. Shauryam tejo dhuti daksham yuddhe chapya palayanam danam Ishvara Bhavascha kshatram karma svabhavajam. So the idea of Ishvara Bhava. Now, Prabhupada translated Ishvara Bhava as leadership. So, what we're translating also is leadership. The nature of leadership. What it means is that if there is a group of people, somebody has to lead a group of people. And some people have that take charge mentality. Not just because they want power and attention, but some people have competence. So leadership, it's like everybody may want that trait, but everybody may want to be a leader, but there are some people who are actually capable of being leaders. So in that sense, the Ishwar Bhav itself is not a problem. See, if you see parenting, if somebody becomes a parent, in one sense the parent has to be a Ishwar, isn't it? The parent has to control the children. If a small kid wants to go and play on the streets where there are vehicles racing by, the parents have to say no. The spiritual master is a Ishwar. The spiritual master guides and instructs and controls the disciple. So the point is not just the Ishwara Bhava, because we are all parts of the Supreme Ishwara. So when we are parts of Krishna, we will have partly the mentality of Krishna. Now the problem is, why do we want to be Ishwara? So the Kshatriyas, they are often called as Naradev. Naradev means they are gods on earth. The idea is that the king should take responsibility for people, just as a parent takes responsibility for children, or God takes responsibility for all living beings. So if somebody is taking on the role of leadership so that they can help others come on the right path, that's not a problem at all. Then similarly enjoying Macchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. So Ramanti is actually enjoy. In fact, the very name of the very word Ram is what? Ramante Yogino Anante Satyananda Chidatmani. So enjoying is not the problem. It is Ishvara and Bhoga. Is it something which is taking us higher towards our better nature, towards ultimately goodness and God, or is it taking us away from that? So if you say Ishvara, that can mean controllership, but that Ishvara Bhava, it can also mean taking responsibility. Like say if I am taking responsibility right now for speaking, in one sense, what am I going to do? I will be trying to control the attention of the audience, not literally by force, but by speaking things that are meaningful and appealing, by which I can retain your attention. But what am I speaking after that? Am I speaking something which is helping you come towards wisdom, coming towards goodness, come towards Krishna? Or am I just speaking something for cheap applause and something which will titillate but agitate and create deceptions in the mind? So both the Ishvara Bhav and the Bhoga Bhav, they are natural to us. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and we as parts of Krishna are also enjoyers. The problem with the demoniac mentality is what we discussed earlier, that no boundaries. So for the sake of my controllership, so one way to become a controller is that I'd show that I am more competent than everyone else. But another way is, anybody who decides to challenge my authority, I destroy that person. Even if that person is actually better than me. That's what we discussed about destructive competition. So then that Ishvara Bhava is destructive. The boundaries are not there. See, Bhoga doesn't just have to mean sensual pleasure. If somebody has any talent, a gift in one is a gift for everyone. If one person has beautiful singing ability, then their singing ability can benefit everyone. If somebody has good painting ability, their painting can bring so much joy. They get joy in painting and they bring joy to others. So how are we seeking Bhog? How are we seeking that Ishwar Bhav? That's important. So rather than thinking that we have to give up that, yes, the word controlling mentality or enjoying mentality has a negative connotation, the way it is generally used in ISKCON. But the negative connotation is generally with the Pruthak Bhava, with the separatist mentality. But if that same thing is used in a mood of service, in a mood of taking responsibility, in a mood of connecting with Krishna, then these are not bad things. Okay. Yes, please. Mic behind.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. In one of the classes you had mentioned that sometimes there is a distance between intent and action. and you had given 3 to 4 categories, that initially somebody intends something else but acts so that his purpose is fulfilled. That's still okay, but more dangerous is when the action is exactly, I mean, intent is much, is a destructive intent. So I wanted to ask a personal question which I'm not little clear. So even in Krishna consciousness also, like sometimes like some devotees have some strengths which are not always my strength, and I would like to also take help of their strengths for forwarding my service. Now I cannot oblige them by directly asking. I would, in one say, there's a distance between intent and action, in the sense that I would serve them so that they would feel obliged towards me, so that they would help me in my service. So then, will that be considered as a destructive intent or an acceptable intent, or should we correct this attitude? Because ultimately I'm doing it for Lord's service only, but the intent is not pure enough.
Okay, it's a good question, quite a thoughtful question. See, the nature of life is reciprocation. That all relationships, all interactions involve some reciprocation. You ask me a question, I'm trying to answer the question. That's a reciprocation. Now, reciprocation is a basic principle of life. Now, reciprocation can be two ways. One is transactional, the other is transformational. So, transactional interaction means, say, if I go to a shopkeeper, no, I buy a product, I give some money. And I may not even, nowadays in the past when there were like, every neighborhood had this small kirana shop, then what would happen is the people would know the shop owner and they would have some conversation, they would become familiar with each other. Now if you go to supermarket mall, there are different attendants at different times. So it's very transactional. So if the interactions are transactional, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's one way we function. But now transformational, ideally speaking, what should happen? It's like when I interact with you and you interact with me. The result of that is the two of us come closer to each other. And both of us, through that interaction, we become better. That is the ideal purpose of any relationship. You know, we come, like Prabhupada said, one of the purposes of ISKCON is to bring people closer to each other and closer to Krishna, the prime entity. So this would be a transformational kind of interaction. So now, we all have different strengths. And we are, after all, a team. We're all serving Krishna, and Krishna has given us all different talents. So now, if we do something for someone, and then we expect them to do something for us, is that a wrong thing? I wouldn't say it's wrong. It's just that if that person doesn't do the thing for us, then what do? Do we just completely neglect or devalue that person? Or okay, yeah, some relationships come closer, some relationships don't come closer. But it's not that just because that person didn't do something for us, we start treating that person as if they don't exist only. Or I did something for you, you didn't do something for me, and I'll really do something to you now. So, that is not very healthy. In general, see, the nature of life is that we reciprocate with many different people. In some relationship, we do a lot for someone and they do very little for us. In some other relationship, we do a little for them and they do a lot for us. So, in the overall net analysis, if we give, we will get back. If we offer service, we will get some reciprocation. But it may not be from the same person. And if it is not from the same person, then for us to decide that, okay, I won't spend so much time on this person, that's perfectly okay. So, So I think it's the relationship may or may not develop, that we can't control that. But we shouldn't devalue or dismiss the person, or certainly not become an enemy of that person because that person doesn't reciprocate the way we expected.
We, what I generally do is that I would go an extra mile if the reciprocation is there.
Yeah.
Else, I would do the regular way which I deal with everybody else.
Yeah,
I won't disregard.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's how ideally things should be. We don't want to. People will disappoint us. We will disappoint people. But we don't have to become their enemies. They don't have to. We don't have to make them our enemies. So yes, I think that's fair enough. We do something extra, and we see how they reciprocate. If they reciprocate, then we spend more time in that relationship. So, about give time. Give time has two different meanings. Give people our time, or give people time to grow themselves. Let them take their time. So it's like sometimes in our voice outreach, we have certain standards, we have certain expectations. And some students come up to those expectations, like say coming for the morning program, doing this many rounds, this. Some don't. Now in the past, many times those who would not come to our standards, we just completely not pay any attention to them at all. But we also learned by experience that, maybe they are not ready right now. But that doesn't mean that they're bad people. That doesn't mean they're insincere people. It just means they're not ready right now. So we may not spend a lot of time talking with them. Even they may not want to spend a lot of time talking with us also. But they are not unfavorable to bhakti. They may just not be that committed. So we might maintain some casual contact with them and invite them occasionally for some programs. And maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, they may become more serious. Like now, I've seen when I go to America, many devotees who were like not very serious in bhakti in India, when they go to America and they're doing their PhD there or they got a job there, they get connected to a temple there and they want to do a lot of service there. They feel the need more when they are there. So basically don't close the door. Like we open the door for somebody. If they don't walk into the door, it's not that we kick them out of the room and slam the door in their face. Okay, I open the door for you. If you don't want to come in, this door is there. You can knock in the future. I'll open and let you in. So keep the relationship cordial. But we don't have to, all of us have finite time and resources. If somebody is not reciprocating, then we don't have to spend too much time on that person. Okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You were discussing about timeless principles and timely applications.
Yeah.
So how can we be sure about that this timely application is not deviated from the timeless principles?
How can we know that the timely application is not deviating from the timeless principle? Well, there are many different ways. You remember I talked about 3 things. Whenever we are evaluating the right or wrong action, there's content. 3 things, what is it? Intent and consequence. What is the result? So all 3 are important in their own place. So we could say that Prabhupada sometimes prioritizes consequence and he says, Falena parichayate. So say we have Zoom classes. Say now some devotees attend classes online instead of coming physically. Now is that equivalent to physical classes? Well, we'll say most likely no. But then it depends. For those who come primarily from the intellectual pathway, for them coming to the temple is primarily for hearing the class. And quite often they do not even like so much the social aspect. Sit and talk with this person and then take prasad over here, stand in a queue. And for them, the Zoom classes may be very nourishing. And they feel like I don't have to navigate through all the traffic, all the logistics. Just peacefully and hear. sit peacefully and hear. So for them, that might be equivalent. But for somebody who comes for the social aspect primarily, I'm not saying that they are not philosophical, but they want to talk with devotees, they want to have a feeling of communicating with people. Now for them, the Zoom classes may just not serve the purpose at all. Okay, class to kahin bhi sun sakte hai na. I want to meet with people, I want to talk with people. So, I have one devotee in America, he from India, he went to America, he said, I have visited 5 temples of ISKCON and nobody in the temple even asked me who am I, where am I from. What is the point of a temple? I said, okay. Now, is the point of a temple to ask everyone who comes, who are you, where are you from? Well, no and yes. The temple is for glorifying Krishna, but the temple is also a place for building a community. Now, some temples may just not have enough people, or the people might be very busy in some services. So, I would say that each person will have to evaluate whether actually I am coming closer to Krishna or not by this. So like nowadays there is this, many Western forms of music are used in kirtans. Like this mantra, rock and things like that. So now, how much is that Krishna conscious? Well, phalena parichayate. Say for Indians, if they have never heard of rock before, or it's very new, then what happens is the mantra is familiar, the rock is new. So they don't remember the mantra at all, they focus all on the rock. But on the other hand, for somebody who is Western, for them the rock is the familiar thing, the mantra is the new thing. So generally speaking, for them, they will focus more on the mantra. So for them, it may bring them closer to Krishna. For us, it may not. Because the phalena parichayate is, at the end of it, what do I remember primarily? Do I remember the mantra or do I remember the rock? So each person will have to evaluate that. That's why Desha Kala Patra is so important. Like, say in India there is generally gender separation. And that's the conventional way. It's not just in temples, even if you go to locals, there are separate compartments for women and things like that. So there's a certain amount of gender separation. I was talking with an American devotee, he's now become a devotee. He said that when he came to a temple, his girlfriend brought him to a temple, they came in the same car. But then he said, after we came in, we were told to sit in separate places. And he said, throughout the class, throughout the session, I neither could understand the arti nor understand the class. I was so lost completely. And I couldn't even ask anyone what is going on. So he said, I told my girlfriend, I'm never going to come here again. And then after that, they went to a Western Outreach Center. And in the Western Outreach Center, they don't have such gender separation. Men and women can sit together. If you go even now today, I don't know how it is in India, but in the West, in churches, people, the family sits together. Even if somebody is a fiancé, and so they also sit together. So actually sometimes the church is the only time the family is together. So now for an Indian, genders mixing together in a temple would be disturbing. But for a Western person, gender being separated may be disturbing. So we have to see, each person will have to see from their background perspective. So it's not that easy to decide what is anukul and what is pratikul. So it's not simple that you can just look at something and say it's a deviation. See, Prabhupada had big plans for spreading Krishna consciousness. So around 1968-69, he started a political party in America. They called it In God We Trust. And Prabhupada said there is one advantage of being a politician. Is you can freely criticize everyone else. So Prabhupada was very enthusiastic, and there's one devotee, Balwant Prabhu. Prabhupada said, you can become the next president of America. And then I met Balwant Prabhu also. He said, suddenly Prabhupada seemed to just lose all enthusiasm. And then he went to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, are you no longer interested in the political party? Prabhupada said, I am very interested, but don't ask me for any money. So what happened was that when Prabhupada recognized that it's not just doing some political campaign and giving some rallies. becoming entered into politics involves a huge amount of money. And Prabhupada felt that the Lakshmi that we are getting from book distribution, Lakshmi that people are giving from donations, he said that we would like to use it for building temples, that we would like to use it for printing books, that we would like to use it for direct devotional activities. And so he decided that, we don't want to get involved in politics. Certainly not involve, spend Lakshmi that could be used for building temples on funding a political candidate. So the intent was right. The intent was also to spread Krishna consciousness. And can politicians help spreading Krishna consciousness? Of course they can. But Prabhupada decided this is not working right now. So was it a deviation? Obviously not an innovation. It was an experiment. So some experiment, the intent might be good, but the consequence was turning out, it was just sucking the resources, financial resources. They decided, no, this we can't do at this point. So I think deviation is a very harsh word, and there's a huge amount of judgment associated with that. So I think in life, we all need to find out how things work for us. Ache kichu karya tabe ei anumane, nahi keno ani bena ei ugrasthane. So Prabhupada in Markine Bhagavad Dharma says that, my dear Lord, you must have some purpose that you have brought me here. And the word using is anumane. Anuman means what? Guessing. Now, anuman you could say use as speculation. And Prabhupada says, I am speculating, you must have some purpose. Now, it's not speculation. Prabhupada is saying, I am inferring. It's an inference I am making that. Prabhupada was 69, 70. We discussed earlier how for Prabhupada to get to America itself, how the sponsorship letter came, how he got the passageway on Jaladuta, how he survived the heart attacks. Well, Prabhupada had endeavored, Prabhupada saw there was Krishna's hand there. So if Krishna, you have brought me this far, you won't have brought me this far to abandon me now. You must have some plan because of which you have brought me here, brought me till now. So, ache kichu karya tabe. So, I guess you must have some purpose. So, what is that purpose? It was not that Prabhupada had like a hotline to Krishna, and Krishna was telling him, this person is not going to become a devotee. Don't spend time talking with this person. This person will become a devotee. Spend more time with this person. No, Prabhupada was trying. I mentioned this earlier also that faith is a combination of certainty and uncertainty. The certainty is that Krishna will protect, that Krishna will empower. A devotee has that conviction, that certainty. But when and how? The time and the means. Now that is something which we may not know. When Prabhupada also said, I can see temples. The temples are filled with people, with devotees. Only time is separating us. Even Prabhupada didn't know how much time is separating us. Is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? So, Krishna's plan works at his pace. So, and how it will work, that we don't know. So we have to try things. Okay, I try this particular service. If it works well and good, if it doesn't work, then we try to recalibrate. Okay, let us try something else. And we all through that process, we learn what works and we move forward. So I think deviation is a very harsh word to use. Okay? Yeah. Where's the mic? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for this lecture. I wanted to ask that in one of your lectures you said that the fear of aparadhs lead to superficial relationship between the devotees. So can you put a little light on this, and how can we know that our relationship with a particular devotee is superficial, and what can be done to make it deep-rooted?
Okay, good question. See, strong relationship, how do you know it's a strong relationship? It's like how strongly you hug someone when you meet them? Well, that could be one parameter. But the idea is that one parameter of a strong relationship is, even if strong words are spoken in that relationship, the relationship doesn't break. That, see, life is tough. And life presents serious challenges, serious problems are there. And if two people are invested in solving a problem, the two may have different approaches. Like two devotees want to preach. But one devotee may say, let's focus on getting infrastructure first. Another devotee may say, let's get people first. Now, who is right? It's very difficult to say. Now, two parents, a couple wants to take care of a child. One parent may say, we have to rigidly discipline our child. Other parent may say, no, we shouldn't suffocate our child so much. Let the child have space. Who is right? It's difficult to say. So see, generally, disagreements are unavoidable in life. Now, disagreements, they can be at three levels. One is at the level of conclusions. That, you have arrived at this conclusion, and I have arrived at a different conclusion. These are, relatively speaking, the mildest. We all can, okay, I know you are at that conclusion, I don't agree with it. But sometimes we decide, sometimes we'll do your way, sometimes I'll do my way, whatever it is. Now, there can be disagreement about reasoning itself. That, see, what do I mean by reasoning? The way you are thinking about it. So at this level, it is more, a disagreement is about action, what to do. At this level, it's more at the level of intelligence. That means the way you are analyzing it. Say if you have to decide, should we invest money in a particular mutual fund or stock or whatever. Now, some people may say that, okay, this is the track record over here, this is this company, this agent is talking about it. They may give a list of factors in its pro. Now, somebody may say, but this person lost money in something like this, and there are so many scams now, and we have safer options even if they don't have so much returns. So here, the disagreement is over intelligence. And this is also okay. Now, it is a little more difficult to reconcile it. But at least, okay, I understand why you are thinking like this. So I don't agree with it, but your position is at least intelligible to me. It's not agreeable, but it's intelligible. But the most problematic is when it becomes at the level of intentions itself. That means I doubt your intentions. I think you are ill-motivated. That you want to do this, you want to preach in this way because you just want popularity. Or you want to preach in this way because you want more position, you want more power, you want more money. You're not really interested in people, in benefiting them, or you're not even interested in serving the mission of Prabhupada. So when the disagreements go at the level of intentions, then it's very difficult to reconcile them. Because, see, we may not trust people's judgments, but still we may trust people's hearts. It's possible that, I may not invest money where you recommend, because I don't trust your financial sense. But still I may trust you as a person. You're a good person, but the same way you could say it could apply to me. So, but the thing is, when we start thinking that somebody's intentions are bad, then it becomes a big problem. So now, when there is a disagreement, at what level is the disagreement? If we are too afraid of Vaishnava Aparadha, then what happens is we neither probe the other person, maybe the word probe has a negative connotation, but we don't question the other person, nor do we express ourselves. And the nature of relationships is that quite often when there is ignorance quite often leads to a negative conclusion. That means what? Say, if the two of us know each other, and say we see each other, but I don't greet you, and even if you nod your head, I don't even notice you, then probably you'll start thinking, maybe I'm upset with you, or you may think I'm a rude person. So now, it might just be that maybe something else is on my mind and I didn't even notice it, I was thinking about something else. But what happens is, our mind, whenever there is an interaction that we can't make sense of, we often don't leave it at that level. We don't leave it at that level. We try to, why is this person behaving like this? And over a period of time, we go towards the intentions. And then that happens, then it becomes a big problem. See, if I trust you that, you are dedicated to Prabhupada's mission, you trust me that I am dedicated to Prabhupada's mission, Now, I may have made some mistakes in how I present the philosophy or how I make some managerial decisions. But if you trust my intention, then even if you attack me, the attack will be more on the particular decision made, not on the individual itself. But then all this requires some talking. If in the name of not committing Vaishnava Aparadh, we don't talk with each other, then what will happen is we keep arriving at our own inferences. Why does this person behave like this? Why does this person behave like this? And then as the negative inferences start coming up, then slowly we start doubting people's intentions. So then it becomes very problematic. So, Ashwathama in the Mahabharata was a good person. He was not a bad person at all. And he had nothing against the Pandavas. But he ended up doing probably the worst deed in the entire Mahabharata. What was that? Killing the Pandavas' sons while they were sleeping. And not just the Pandavas' sons, the entire Pandava army basically. Slaughtering them. Now how did he do that? What made him such a bad person? See, what happened was that Dronacharya was killed. Now Dronacharya was killed when he was unconscious, or rather when he had gone into meditation. And he thought the Pandavas killed my father when he was unconscious, so I will kill them while they are unconscious, or they are sleeping basically, same thing. So now the key difference here was the Pandavas had not made a cold-blooded plan to kill Drona. The plan was to get Drona to lower his weapons, because Drona had got so frustrated at his inability to win for Duryodhan that he had started using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. It's like, in ordinary war, somebody starts using nuclear weapons. So then, somehow or the other, that particular country's leader has to be assassinated or brought down. Well, the Pandavas' plan was basically to get Drona to lower his weapons. And then Arjuna's plan was, we will arrest Drona and keep him under house arrest. But Drishtadyumna happened to be the closest to Drona when Drona lowered his weapons. And Drishtadyumna had been born for the death of Drona. That's what his father had performed a yajna. But Drishtadyumna had come nowhere close to killing Drona. And in front of Drishtadyumna's eyes, Drona had killed Drupada on that very day. So Drishtadyumna was frustrated. And when he got the opportunity, he charged toward Drona to lop off his head. Warriors from both sides told him, stop. This is a heinous activity. He's your guru. You cannot do it to anyone like this. But suddenly not to him. But things happened so fast that he just lopped off the head. Arjuna was so angry at that time. Arjuna went forward to attack Drishtadyumna. Satyaki came to assist Arjuna. And then Bhima had to come in between and they had to stop. So it was the hot-headed action of one individual. It was not the cold-blooded plan of the entire Pandava. The plan was, speaking a lie was a cold-blooded plan. But killing was not the cold-blooded plan. But what happened was, Duryodhan told Ashwathama, the Pandavas planned in a cold-blooded way to kill your father. And Ashwathama just couldn't believe this. He said, Arjuna, whatever, now Arjuna and Ashwathama were rivals, but he knew Arjuna was a good archer and Arjuna was a faithful disciple. He just couldn't believe, how could Arjuna have done something like this? But at that time, he just made one big mistake. That he didn't ask the Pandavas. He believed Duryodhan's version of the story. He could, just once he could, how could you have killed our guru like this? Now what kind of person does that? Now you could say that they were fighting a war, they could kill. That's true. But there is an honorable way to kill and there is a dishonorable way to kill. So because he didn't ask that, he bought into Duryodhan's version of the story. That's why he felt self-righteous. Now what you did to your guru, I will do to you. That's how he ended up doing something terrible. So the point I'm saying is that he started questioning or he started believing that the Pandavas were ill-motivated. And that's where the problem came up. So we need to talk with each other. If somebody is doing something which doesn't make sense to us, which agitates us, then asking, what was your reasoning in doing this? So the other person should not be so insecure, who do you think you have to question me? Or we should not be so insecure. If I just question this person will become so offended that our relationship will end. So that should not be there. So in that sense, sometimes to face real problems in life, we have to ask hard questions of each other. And the readiness to, the courage to ask the hard questions and the courage to answer the hard questions, that if it is present, it's a strong relationship. So if we are constantly afraid of committing aparadh, see, the mind is not going to stop thinking. Isn't it? Why did this person do like this? So then we will say, I don't want to commit aparadh, but how will I not commit an aparadh? Because that person has done some action that has affected me. And I have to somehow make sense of that action. So either I have to ask that person or I have to ask someone else. And then find out from that person. Maybe that person knows that person can ask someone else. That's why we have mediation, we have ombudsmen, we have various mechanisms. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Where's the mic now? Yeah, where? Okay. You can have the mic come here to Mataji. Those two questions there, then we'll come here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for this wonderful sessions, series of sessions. This was very good and very enlightening. Regarding those part, like stages of bhakti, when you were mentioning that how someone began bhakti, like how he came, and then in somewhere I understood like what you said, something like that later when we try to analyze that for what reason I came to bhakti, and we analyze where we are, and then it helps us to further root us and then further advance from that position. So when I reflect on this, so I see my friends and other devotees, they share that they come out of frustration of questions, like some frustrations, someone came from inquisitiveness to know something, and something like that. But when I reflect, then I only see that, or mostly I see, I don't know subtly, but at least gross level I see that, okay, just it happened, I was not doing anything relevant, so devotees were calling, I liked the devotees, I liked what they are saying, what they did, so just I am continuing. And they only helped me bringing the curiosity, and while telling that, what is your purpose of life? Okay, something I have to think like this also. Okay. So what I am asking, Prabhuji, that so now like somehow or other I came to Krishna consciousness. How to take now and how to fix in the root now, like, and so that.
Yeah, it's not easy because in many ways we are a mystery to ourselves. There are many times we do something, and then if somebody asks us, why did you do that? We come up with an explanation that will make sense to them. But is that the real reason why we did it? Maybe it is a part of it. But, so the point I'm saying is that, sometimes understanding human motivation is very complex. So, why we do particular things? We can try to understand to some extent, and of course, because we are responsible for our life in many ways, so we have to try to understand. But it is not so easy. And life also is, to some extent, the very nature of life is that we have to make huge decisions based on tiny information. Like if you choose a particular career, you may choose engineering, you may choose a particular field of engineering. How much can we know about it? No, we may try to find out, we may try to know this is a good college, this is a good field, but how much can we know? If we ever take up a job, Now, how much can we really know about that particular job? And even if we know, the world changes, the economy changes, that particular job may not be so lucrative. If we get married, how much can we really know about the other person? No, so the point is that in life, that is just the way we function. That sometimes we may have to make huge decisions based on tiny pieces of information. And we try to use as much reasoning as we can, try to get as much information as we can. But much of life requires stepping out in faith. So we try as much as possible to make sense. And sometimes we can make sense of our past actions. Sometimes we can make sense of our present actions. And it may not be that the reason why we came to Krishna consciousness is the same reason why we are continuing in Krishna consciousness. And now we change, our reasons also evolve. So we can say, okay, what is it that inspires me right now? So those are my reasons. So in Krishna consciousness, there are, say, we do a dozen activities. Which are the activities that I look forward to? Generally, one way to understand our attractions is that what is it that if we do, we feel happy? And what is it if we don't do? We feel grumpy. You know grumpy? Grumpy is like irritable. You know, we just become annoying. We become annoyed and we become annoying. So we can observe this, and by that we can try to understand what is it that is presently driving us. And it's a self-understanding also takes time. Just saying I am not the body, I am the soul, it doesn't really give us much self-understanding. It is okay, I am the soul, but still I am living through this particular body-mind machine. And what is the nature of this body-mind machine? Understanding that also takes time. So just do the best that we can. And sometimes we learn something about ourselves from some decisions. Sometimes we just don't, there's not much to learn. Okay, I made this decision based on these factors. So we just understand, okay, these factors were what shaped my decision. It may not have been a conscious decision, but it is these factors. Like if you, the way you are describing yourself, then you may also find that if you chose engineering, it might not have been by a lot of conscious deliberation. Maybe the parents told us, maybe some friends told us. So some people are like that. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but some people reflect a lot before making decisions. Some people may not reflect a lot. You know, if the people around us, people whom we respect, people whom we trust, people whom we like, they suggest something to us, and we don't find it anything terribly wrong with it. If it makes sense, we go along with it. So it just speaks, it just tells us something about our nature. So don't worry too much about it. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
You had a question. Where is the mic?
One more question, Prabhu.
Yeah.
In one of your sessions, you said a devotee looks forward for Krishna when he proceeds, further goes ahead in the bhakti, and not Krishna's blessings, Krishna's gifts.
Correct. Yeah.
He looks forward for Krishna. And then you described it with Krishna's blessings as service and I think opportunities or
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, my understanding was that Krishna's service is more important than looking for just person Krishna.
That is true. See, I was talking from a particular perspective. It's not so much the service, it's more like the tangible manifestations of the service. I was giving the example of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada went to America and he was very attached to Krishna, and the way he was connected with Krishna to the service, to chanting Krishna's names, to speaking about Krishna, to writing about Krishna. But then he did not have any tangible blessings of Krishna manifested in this world. He didn't have followers, he did not have temples, he did not have an institution. But he was not disturbed by that. So, service is one thing, but the results of the service is another thing. So, if we have an opportunity to speak about Krishna, even if one person is there to hear from us, that's an opportunity to serve Krishna through speaking. And you can be grateful for that. But if you are giving a program and say instead of 1 people, 100 people come, then that is a further blessing, isn't it? So sometimes that blessing may manifest at the material level, sometimes it may not manifest at the material level. So what I was saying is that some devotees, as we grow, we want blessings to manifest at a gross level first, then at a subtle level, but then afterwards, even if the blessing at the subtle level don't manifest. Like somebody is a pujari. They worship the deities or they dress the deities, and after that somebody says, the dressing is so beautiful today. And they feel that their service is being valued. It's being appreciated. But somebody may be serving the deities in a temple where not many people visit, not many people appreciate. But they're just happy serving the deities. So then that is something which is, I would say, much more advanced. Of course, they would also love if people came and took darshan of the deities. But their relationship with Krishna and their dedication to Krishna's service is not dependent on their recognition of their service by the world. Does that answer your question?
So, Krishna's service here you meant more on a
the
material things.
I won't use the word material, but the manifested results.
Manifested results.
Yeah, because if somebody is coming to attend a kirtan or attend a class, can you call it really material? You could say the result is manifested in the material world, but it is, those people are coming to hear about Krishna, that is definitely at least partly spiritual. Okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. This side here. Are there any other questions? Okay, we'll come back. Yes, Mataji.
Religious and spiritualism. Is it the same religiousness and spiritualism, or is there any difference? And at ISKCON, what we are doing is religiousness or spiritualness? Can you please explain? Because this is very confusing. Everyone's talk about these days spiritualism, but their spiritualism explanation is quite different.
Yeah. So I mentioned that there is this whole genre of people who call themselves as SBNR. Can you guess what it is? Yes. Spiritual but not religious. There are entire books written about this also. So basically what has happened is that words in general, in philosophy of language, words have denotations and they have connotations. Now, both of them may seem very complex, but denotations is what they literally mean. And connotations means what they remind people of or what they are associated with. So for example, in the West, people don't like to use the word I came to Krishna consciousness. Because they say, it's like, I am exploring. So came to means, like that exploring aspect is not there, it's like a destination is there. So they say, I encountered Krishna consciousness. Now in India, the word encounter has a different meaning. So in India we use the word pass out. So pass out means graduated. In the West, pass out means to fall unconscious. So I was giving a class, I passed out in 1998 and people became concerned. So words have denotations, what they literally mean, and connotations, what they symbolize. So before 1950, the word spiritual and religious were more or less synonyms. If you see the quotes of Einstein, he sometimes uses the word, that the deeply religious sense that there is a higher intelligence manifested in the universe. So he uses the word religious in a very generic sense. So humanity is defined by religious instinct. So what the religious instinct means? The instinct to look for something deeper, something bigger, to find some meaning and purpose. But especially the post-1950s, and especially I would say after 1980s, 1990s, and especially after 9/11. 9/11 was when the Twin Towers were brought down. So after that, religion, it started being associated very strongly with sectarianism. Sectarianism and then fanaticism. Sectarianism means what? That you know that religion divides people. That, oh, you know, people belong to this group and then my religion versus your religion. So the word religion started acquiring a negative connotation. That, you know, religion tells you you have to believe this. And then what I believe is different from what you believe, then there's conflict because of that. And then fanaticism, you know, we discussed two forms of fanaticism, you remember? Okay, maybe I don't think I discussed it. There's exclusivism, which is more in thoughts. That some people have the idea that my religion has exclusive rights to God. You can go to God only if you follow my religion, my God, my sacred book. So that's exclusivism. So exclusivism is thought, but there is also extremism. Now extremism is in actions. So exclusivists say that if you're not going to worship my God, you're going to go to hell. Extremists are even kinder than exclusivists. They say, anyway you're going to go to hell, why delay it? So, we will help you get there faster. So what happens because of this? That religion, the word religion has got a strongly negative connotation nowadays. In contrast, nowadays the word spiritual, it is associated with openness, like openness to experience. That, okay, you know, I want to know if there's something more in life. I'm open to try out various things. I'm open to learn new ideas. So spirituality is associated with openness. And it is also associated with positive emotions. Like people say, they associate spiritual with, oh, I went to this, it was a very spiritual experience. That means I felt very good. And it's not just like superficial good, I drink and feel good. No, something deeper good I felt. So the word spiritual has got a very positive connotation nowadays. And most importantly, spiritual is not seen as sectarian. So now, in Krishna consciousness, what we are doing, is it spiritual or is it religious? Well, it's not that simple. Like, one way to understand this is this analysis I do based on 9.2 in the Gita. See, science has two aspects to it. There is theory and there is experiment. So like that, spirituality has two aspects. There is philosophy and there is practice. And now one aspect of practice, or when the practice is systematized and codified, that becomes religion. So just as in science there has to be some experiment. Otherwise the theory just remains in the head. We don't know whether it's right or wrong. Similarly, in spirituality, we may have different philosophies, but we have to have some practice. And that, see, curiously, words have different connotation. The word religion has a negative connotation, but the word religious does not have such a negative connotation. It's like somebody, he was religiously dedicated to his sports practice. That means like a religious person would every day do some practice like that. Nowadays the word monk has become very cool. You know, that the idea is that monks are people who are very focused. So there's a whole word called, oh, I was functioning in a monk mode. Monk mode means, like I was so absorbed, I was so focused, I was so single pointed. So they say there is a whole book about how to live in the monk mode. There's that one book, Think Like a Monk, which was there, but other books also come up like that. So the idea of religious dedication, That means, single-pointed, committed dedication, that is valued. But, so the idea is that if somebody wants to be spiritual, they have to do some practice for being spiritual. And that practice will be their religion. But they may not use that particular term for it. Because the word religion makes people quite uncomfortable. So, now as far as ISKCON is concerned, anybody who sees us, we will say we are religious. Because they associate certain externals, we wear a particular symbol, tilak, we wear particular clothes, we have particular prayers that we chant. So somehow in the mainstream mind, many times specific is associated with sectarian. The more specific your practice is, it becomes that it's associated with a specific group of people who are practicing it. That specific group becomes a sect. So specific is associated with sectarian. But it doesn't have to be like that. So are we religious? Well, yes, in the sense that we have a specific set of practices. But are we spiritual? Yes, in the sense that we are looking for higher experience. We are seeking to develop love of God. So if we consider that the top of the mountain is spiritual consciousness, the bottom of the mountain is material consciousness. So now in our tradition, we do accept that there are many paths to God. The Prabhupada in that purport of Sambhava, that there are many paths to higher consciousness, to God. When Prabhupada was asked about Jesus, he said, Jesus is like our Guru. He had so much love for God that he was ready to lay down his life for the service of God. A person who has so much love for God, we respect that person. So Prabhupada had that broadness. When he was in Iran, now Iran has become like a hotbed of fanaticism, but that was after 1979, they had a revolution. Before that, Iran was quite open. Now if you go to Iran, it becomes Iran. You have to run. Among all the countries in the Middle East, Iran is probably among, even more than Saudi Arabia, at least they're trying to cultivate a liberal image. But because they want business and other things. But Iran is very hardline. Anyway, Prabhupada was in Iran, and he was talking with some devotees, and at that time, in the background, the namaz prayer started, the shahada started being called out. And Prabhupada paused, and Prabhupada just closed his eyes. He heard out the whole prayer. And when Prabhupada opened his eyes were shining. He said, wasn't that beautiful? And then one devotee said, Prabhupada, wouldn't it be better if they chanted Hare Krishna? And Prabhupada looked almost hurt. Prabhupada said, why are you making me sectarian? They are worshipping God in their way, we are worshipping God in our way. So now does that mean that it's exactly identical? Of course not. There are differences. So the idea is that if, say, this path up the mountain is rocky, this part of the path of the mountain is marshy. So now different paths up the mountain, same mountain we are going up, but they may require different equipments. The kind of shoes one wears, the kind of pole one carries for support, the kind of clothes one wears, depending on what kind of winds are there, what kind of rains are there. So there will be differences. And sometimes those differences may be non-trivial. Serious differences might also be there. But still, there can be a common purpose. So we have a specific set of practices. In that sense, we are religious. But we also accept, we are open. There is a certain level of openness. We accept that there are many paths to God. So in that sense, we are spiritual. So in general, because the word religious has a negative connotation, we can focus on the word spiritual. And if you see Prabhupada in the 7 purposes of ISKCON, he uses the word spiritual. He doesn't use the word religious. He says like, the first purpose is to correct the imbalance between material and spiritual values through systematic spiritual education. And then later on he talks about to erect a place dedicated for the worship of Krishna, worship of the prime entity Krishna. But he doesn't specifically use the word religious. So in one sense, if people are using the word religious in the sense of being sectarian, narrow-minded, intolerant, we are not religious in that sense. but religious in the sense that we have a specific set of practices by which we rise towards spiritual consciousness. Then in that sense we are religious. So it's a long answer because it's a complicated question. But if you want a short answer, we can say this: we are a spiritual organization. That's the primary we can focus on. Thank you. Are there any other mic? Okay. Yes, we'll come back to you. Where's the mic? I was giving a class in America. Where's the mic? Instead of where's the mic, I said where's mic, and 4 people raised hands. Okay. Where is? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful classes. Prabhuji, I want to ask that sometimes we intellectually become like confident, or we intellectually become convinced that this is wrong, this is right. But sometimes I am looking for sensual pleasures, like mind is looking for sensual pleasures. So the question is, sometimes when we restrain, it creates frustration. So the first question is how to deal with this, like this frustration, or how we can control this.
𝐂𝐻𝐌𝐌𝐔𝐍𝐈𝐓𝐘. So it's not that no sensual pleasure is allowed. It is within boundaries. So now, what exactly the boundary will be? That may vary from person to person, situation to situation. So each of us has to find out how we can practice spirituality in a way that is progressive and sustainable for us. Progressive means we are moving ahead. Sustainable means it's not that we are feeling suffocated constantly. So, like it's, in one ways, parenting. So it's like our intelligence can be like the parent for our mind. So the parenting has 2 aspects to it. One is we care for the present child. Second is we care for the potential. Potential child means the potential in the child. Isn't it? So parents, they want their children to have a bright future, and that means they have to study, they have to discipline themselves, they have to maintain their health. So the parents need to care for the potential. The child is not going to care for the future, isn't it? It's the parents who have to care. But at the same time, the parents can't be caring so much for the future of the child that the child starts feeling suffocated right now. Is it? Children will want to play. Say, oh, if you study, you have such a bright future ahead. I want a bright future, but I want some light in the present also, isn't it? Isn't it? In the name of brightening my future, you are darkening my present. So the parents say, you study, no playing at all. Playing is a waste of time. Well, children will need to play. They need to have some fun. They need to be children. So, now sometimes it happens that, say, some children, maybe they lose their parents or their younger siblings to take care of, and like sometimes some children have to grow up very fast. And it is laudable that they take up responsibility, but it's still sad that they did not get to be children. So by nature there are various phases in life, and we go through those phases. So similarly, there is a future me, which I definitely want that my future me should be better than my present me. So we want to care for the future me. But at the same time, we want to care for the present me also. So the present, if I care only for the present, if you say the present me, if I care only for the present me, then I will get stagnated. That if the parents, oh, my child, you like to play, just keep playing. Then the child will not grow in life, isn't it? But if we care only for the future me and not the present me, we will be suffocated. So each one of us has to find out that balance between we want to brighten our future, but we also want to take care of our present. So how exactly that will be different for different people. So each one of us will consult our seniors, look at our own experience, and based on that we decide. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is that sometimes, like either subtly or grossly, like pride is one of the anarthas that we have. So sometimes when we are, like suppose doing any service, or sometimes like maybe something we do it in a good way. So the pride comes into ourselves. So how to deal, means what are the tools that we can use to deal the pride, and how to be safe?
See, pride is a very broad word. It's like, what does pride mean? On a positive side, it can mean a sense of honor. On a negative side, it can mean arrogance. So, like, or you can say, if there is what we may use the word self-respect. Like Prabhupada uses this, say, when, or in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dhruva's pastime is described. So there it is said that Narad Muni is appreciating how that aho kshatriya tejasam mana bhangam amrushyatam. How great is the effulgence of the kshatriyas that they cannot tolerate dishonor. That the small 5-year-old child, because he was dishonored, he is left home. So now that requires, he's saying how great are the kshatriyas, what is their splendor. Now we say we should all tolerate amanina manadena. So why is Narad Muni saying this? See, the point is that different people are made differently. And Kshatriyas by nature are concerned about honor. But what happens is their concern for honor inspires them to behave in honorable ways. To behave in ways that will ensure that their honor is maintained in society. Like what is that? Raghukula ki Rita Puran. What is that? Prana jaye, par vachan na jaye. So that is that idea that if I have given my word, I will stick to it. So nowadays people give their word, and that is the only thing they give. So it's unfortunate. So honor itself is not a bad thing. A sense of honor if a person has, that will ensure that they behave in honorable ways. And in some people that may be more, some people might be less. And the word pride, nowadays, the way it is used, it has a positive connotation many times. I have seen so many, like hotel executive pride or hotel pride. Like say, if India and New Zealand are playing a match, it's a 5-match series, India has lost all first 3 matches. The series is already lost. But they say then we will be playing for pride. That means what? We don't want this to be a dishonorable clean sweep. At least we'll win 1 or 2 matches. So, like I have seen hotel pride. I haven't seen anywhere hotel arrogance. So the word arrogance has a clearly negative connotation nowadays. So we all need a sense of self-worth. We all need at a basic level the sense that our existence matters, that our contributions are of value to someone beyond ourselves. That tomorrow if I'm not living, it will make some difference to someone. Maybe not that I'm going to shake the world, but my existence matters. That's a very deep-rooted need for every human being. One of the needs is the need to be needed. Now, some people have that a lot, some people may have that less. But that need to be needed is a part of the human psyche itself. So, if say we do some service, and then after that we expect some appreciation for that service, is that pride? I wouldn't think so. It can be. It's one thing to want appreciation, that's just acknowledgement that I did some service, and this was something you did good, maybe this is something you could have improved. There's a difference between seeking appreciation and seeking recognition. Recognition is that, if I did a good service, you should announce to everyone publicly that I did this great service. Well, sometimes that service may be special and we may get that. But a basic level appreciation is just a human need. And amanina manadena. So what does that manadena mean? It is not just artificial Prabhuji, Mataji, Mataji. It's not that. It's genuinely, we see the good in others and we appreciate them for that good. That is manadena. So now we cannot say or we cannot dismiss the need for like basic human appreciation as pride or ego or anything. Pride in the negative sense, ego or arrogance. So I would say that two different things. Appreciation and ego. Appreciation is more like I matter. My existence matters. My contributions matter. Ego is more that I am better than others. That the wanting to be proven or shown or acknowledged to be better than others, that is ego. And that can lead to destructive competition and other things. But a basic level of appreciation is just a human need. And if we don't fulfill that need, then if we don't develop a culture where we fulfill that need for each other, then we won't have much of a community. So we can ourselves observe that when we do some service, are there some people who value us? Everybody will not value us. That's just the way life is. But there are some people who appreciate us, some people who value us. And in that way, we get that need fulfilled. But I would say if it's more of ego or pride or arrogance in that negative sense, then one way to deal with that is to reflect on our own experience. That, okay, even if I am praised, even if I am glorified, how much joy does that give me? It's like over the years I've recognized that if somebody praises me publicly and somebody appreciates me privately, it's not just the same thing. You may say, oh, being praised publicly is better. Not necessarily. If they are praising me publicly, it might just be out of etiquette. It may not be, but it can be. Isn't it? It's just a part of the culture. If some guest has come, you need to appreciate that guest. But if there's no one watching and they're speaking that appreciation to me alone, then there is no ulterior motive over there. At least generally speaking, unless they want something from me. So I can always go into analyze and devalue everything, that over-analytical mode. But my point is that sometimes what the gopis say, that Krishna, when you speak, prahasitam priya prema vikshanam viharanam chate dhyana mangalam rahasya samvido ya rudi sprushaha. That privately when we are together, at that time you spoke words of affection to us. You spoke what they call in romantic language, the sweet nothings. That, you spoke those words of affection, we remember them, they touch our heart. So we can look at our own experience and say, okay, when we are publicly recognized and glorified, how much satisfaction does that give actually? Yes, some satisfaction is there, but it's not that much. Once I gave a class and it was like, I thought it was one of my best prepared classes, almost like every point I had thought out very well, and every point I had thought of a good example, and my delivery I thought was very good. And after that, no one appreciated the class. I was so annoyed. But then that night when I was journaling, it struck me that actually while I was preparing the class and while I was delivering the class, I was so absorbed because I was connecting with Krishna, I was taking shelter of the philosophy, I was trying to serve through that philosophy. And the amount of satisfaction and absorption that I got when I was preparing the class and when I was delivering the class, that was actually far more than the dissatisfaction I felt because nobody recognized, nobody appreciated the class. So, it's like over a period of time we start realizing that the opportunity to immerse ourselves in Krishna is far more fulfilling than the recognition that we get to the service that we do by such immersion. So it happens gradually. But so 3 things I would say is, don't mistake the need for appreciation with pride or ego. And second is that appreciation where we need it, we need to find out circles where we can have that fulfilled. Some people will appreciate it. We need to spend time with those people, and they will also give us some constructive feedback that also we can accept. And third is, if we have that dissatisfaction of not being recognized, then try to look at which are the most satisfying moments in our life. Okay? Thank you. Yes, please. Where is the... Okay.
Prabhuji, I have one more question. Can I ask please, Prabhuji?
Okay.
My question is, Prabhuji, that you mentioned about instincts or vrittis that we have, that are imprinted, that are programmed like inside us. So that are good, that are good aspects inside us. So how to cultivate them and like rely upon them? So like sometimes we see that some instinct is coming, but we don't like really believe that it is something from our mind, or is it from the instinct that it is coming?
Very difficult to know from where it comes. You know, when something comes from inside, it doesn't come with a nice convenient label. This is the mind speaking. This is the ego speaking. This is the intelligence speaking. So the best way to know it is to look at the result. If I do this, where will it take me? And we can look back at our past to say that, where has this taken me? So if somebody is not listening to me and something speaks within me, yell at this person, then I can understand. In the past when I've done this, I just ruined the relationship. But maybe we are good in a particular area. We may be good at organizing, good at writing, good at music. And if something says, maybe let's sing this tune in Kirtan today. Or let's write this way. So we can look at our past and see, generally what I speak what I do comes out well. So we have to look at the result. And to look at the result, we need to look at the past results. That's the best way to do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhu, like you were mentioning that we are secular, at ISKCON we are secular, but still we make the relative.
Sorry. Did I use the word secular? I used the word non-sectarian.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Yes, non-sectarian. But sorry. But still we make the relative comparison with other religions. Like we have one of the standard device session. We use the analogy of pocket dictionary and chamber dictionary. And while Prabhupada suggested that you should name the society that God consciousness, Prabhupada said no Krishna consciousness. And Shankaracharya said that if there is only one scripture, it should be Bhagavad Gita. So then,
good question.
Being sectarian is a social tactic which we use, or is it a fact?
Okay. See, it's a good it's a good question, and I would say there are 2 distinct aspects to it. See, every tradition, okay. Okay, let me first put it this way that, the various traditions, I said some could be exclusivist. Exclusivist means this is the only way. Now, some traditions go to the opposite of the pendulum. They are what kind of pluralist. Pluralist means there are many ways. Some people say there are as many religions as there are people. Everyone has their own religion. I was at an interfaith conference where the Christian pastor was telling how challenging it is to preach in the West. He said he was on a radio show, and there was one person, he said, I'm a Christian. I don't go to any church, but I'm a Christian. So then he said, I very respectfully asked that pastor on the radio show, that person, can I know why you don't go to any church? He said, actually, I haven't yet found any church that agrees with my philosophy. So, some people go to a guru so that the guru may show them their way, and others go to the guru so that the guru may sanction their way. I'm a good person, I'm doing good things, you just give me some ashirwad so that I can continue doing what I want to do. So pluralism can, say exclusivism, can go towards fanaticism. Now, pluralism can go towards a total relativism. Pluralism sounds very good. And yes, people have a right to believe what they want. Somebody wants to be an atheist, they have a right to be an atheist. We cannot infringe on people's right to what they want to believe. But at the same time, the idea that all paths are right, that is not even logical. Because if all paths are right, then atheism is also right. We're not talking about whether a person can believe that. We're talking about in terms of actual reality. See, if atheism is right, then all theisms are wrong. Isn't it? So all paths can't be right. Like I give the example of there are different paths to go up the mountain, but that doesn't mean that all paths go up the mountain. Some paths may just go round and round the mountain. Some paths may go away from the mountain into a valley also. Isn't it? So pluralism, basically the Abrahamic religions are generally exclusivist. Now Hinduism is thought of as pluralist. But actually Sanatana Dharma is not so much pluralist as you can say, it is inclusivist. Inclusivist means what? There is one purpose. And that one purpose includes many paths. It's like one purpose is we want to go to the top of the mountain. For going to the top of the mountain, there can be many paths. So that way, we want to raise our consciousness toward developing love of God. So that's why Prabhupada, when he said that we respect Jesus as our Guru, the idea is love, one side of love is sacrifice. One characteristic of love is seen through sacrifice. So Jesus was ready to sacrifice his life. So that's why we respect. So it's that there is one purpose and there can be many paths to the purpose. So in that sense, we are non-sectarian in the sense that the purpose is universal. The purpose does not have to be bound to a particular path alone. Now, having said that, what happens is that every tradition will, see, the tradition, now as I talked about this exclusivist, inclusivist and pluralist as different traditions. But it's not that simple. Every tradition will have statements of all three kinds. It is, say, exclusive statements are also not a wrong thing. Somebody says, Sarva Dharman Parityajamam Ekam Sharanam Vraj. Somebody says this is an exclusive statement. But not necessarily. It's like, say, a patient has come to a doctor. And the doctor says, okay, you got this disease, take this treatment. And the patient says, but you know, I went to this doctor and this doctor said that, and I went to that doctor and a doctor said that, and I went to that doctor and that doctor said that. And then this doctor says, just forget what all other doctors told you. Just do this and you will be cured. Now, when this doctor is saying, just forget what everyone else told you, that does not necessarily mean that all those doctors are quacks. It is that now you come to me, you take this treatment. So, exclusivist, within a tradition, there could be exclusivist statements which are primarily meant to create focus. Although they can be misinterpreted to lead to fanaticism. Similarly, in every tradition, there may be pluralist statements. And that may be to just let go. That, don't worry if everybody is not following what you're following. Let them do what they want. And every tradition may also have inclusive statements. So for example, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. Krishna is saying, mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. As all people surrender unto me, I reciprocate. That means Krishna is accepting that different people may surrender in different ways. And Krishna is not saying my way or the highway. He is saying all people are on my way. Mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. So, there could be different ways in which people function. So the idea is that it depends on the leaders of the tradition at a particular time, which kind of statements they will emphasize. if they emphasize the exclusive statements primarily, then that tradition, especially its followers, can become fanatical. So similarly, other statements. So the point is, every tradition has the right, or you can say even the responsibility, to point out the strengths of its path and attract people to that path. So that, like say, somebody might be allopathic doctor, somebody might be naturopathic doctor, somebody might be Ayurvedic doctor. Sorry, somebody might, different kinds of doctors might be there. They have a common purpose to boost the health of people. Now, sometimes some Ayurvedic doctors, you go to them, the first thing that they do is start criticizing allopathy. And okay, yeah, allopathy has its side effects and things like that. But then in today's lifestyle, maybe allopathy is what works for many people. Ayurveda requires a lot of lifestyle change, and that is not possible for some people. So rather than criticizing allopathy, just focus on treating people. If people are cured, people will come to you, isn't it? So does allopathy have a right to promote the special virtues of allopathy? Of course it has. Does Ayurveda have that right? Ayurveda also has that right. Now, could it be that Ayurveda is better than allopathy? It depends. It depends on context. For acute diseases, generally allopathy works better. For chronic diseases, Ayurveda works better. I'm giving general principles over here. My point is, so every tradition can have the right to talk about what is special about the tradition. But what is special about a particular tradition does not mean that we are demonizing other traditions. So this is the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the path of Krishna, the path given by Srila Prabhupada, is what we are following because it has benefited us. We have experienced some transformation, we have experienced some illumination, and that's why we are following it. And while we appreciate other paths, is that a public relations tactic? I don't think so. Because when Prabhupada spoke these statements, like he spoke this, that, oh, why are you making me sectarian? It was not in the presence of Muslims, and he was not speaking it to Muslims. He was speaking it in a private conversation to his disciples. And so to call that as a PR technique would be, I would say, a imposition of our conceptions on Prabhupada. So, okay, to conclude this 2 points, that we accept that there can be different paths to God, but that doesn't mean the paths are completely equivalent and interchangeable. Allopathy can have its benefits, Ayurveda can have its benefits. And we have experienced Krishna consciousness as beneficial and transformational, so we follow that. Now, Prabhupada generally had 2 different approaches. Prabhupada didn't encounter much Muslim people, but he encountered a lot of Christians. So those who were nominal Christians, he encouraged them to take up Krishna consciousness because there's the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a Yuga Dharma. But those who were devout Christians, Prabhupada would encourage them to become better Christians. Prabhupada would encourage them to become vegetarian and follow thou shalt not kill. So Prabhupada had different approaches. So our purpose is not just to convert people from one religion to another religion. Our purpose is to transform people from being materialist to be spiritualist. And we have this conviction that the rising of consciousness from materialism to spirituality will happen in the fastest way through Krishna consciousness. That's why we are sharing that. But if God calls someone, if somebody feels called to God from some other path, we are not here to come in between them and God. But we will try to give them some criteria to evaluate. Are you actually going closer to God or not? So one basic way to know whether you're going closer to God is, like we discussed, God becomes bigger and the world becomes smaller. Our attraction to worldly pleasures and worldly fame and worldly power, it decreases, and our satisfaction and delight in God increases. Okay? Yes, you had a question here.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, as you said earlier about like we are part and partial of Krishna, so we have that mentality of controllership and enjoyership. So we have the anarthas also. So is it because of Krishna, or how and why do we have it? Of course, I know that Krishna doesn't have any anarthas. Then how come we have that?
Yes. Are anarthas because of Krishna? Well, you could say yes and no. And I was in Australia. One devotee asked a question. That is a new person who was becoming a devotee. He said, if God wants us to make good choices, then why are the bad choices so many in this world, and the good choices so less? So I said, that's how it always is in any multiple choice exam. So you can say, even the wrong choices come from the teacher, isn't it? But the teacher has also given us the education by which we know which choice to make. So yes, so in the Vishnu Sahasranam it is said that anyway, what is it? Anyway, the three names are there. That he is the fulfiller of desire, he is the fulfillment of desire, and he is desire also. That Kamada, Kamaha, Kamaha. So Kamada is the fulfiller of desire, Kamaha is the destroyer of desire, Kamaha is he is the supreme desirable. So basically, that anarthas, what does the word anartha mean? Anartha means that we see artha in things which don't have much artha. Like somebody has alcoholism as an anartha. That means they see great value in alcohol which has very little value. So now, where is that taste of alcohol coming from? Ultimately, nothing attractive can exist without Krishna. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam shrimad urjitameva va. Tattadevavagachyatvam mamatejo amsha sambhava. The attractiveness of everything is a spark of Krishna's supreme attractiveness. But some sparks, they take us toward Krishna. Some sparks take us away from Krishna. So there may be two singers, and both of them are good singers in the sense that they have good musical singing ability. But one may be singing very explicit sensual songs that trigger lust in people. Somebody is singing devotional songs that evoke bhakti in people. The singing ability of both comes from Krishna. But connecting with the singing ability of one person may take us away from Krishna, and connecting with the singing ability of another person may take us closer to Krishna. So it is for us to choose. So we could say that nothing comes independent of Krishna. Nothing exists independent of Krishna. But if anarthas are present inside us, it is not because Krishna placed them there. It is Krishna only gives us options. If he has given us free will, he has to give us options to choose according to our free will. But then when we make some choices repeatedly, those choices create impressions within us. And those impressions, they become anarthas. So you could say that the anarthas have come within us by our own past actions. But we can make better choices, and as we make better choices, we'll keep moving closer and closer to Krishna. Okay. Thank you. There's
one more question, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Can I ask? Like, you were answering one of the devotees this answer. So, you were saying that one devotee was asking that we don't have that conviction. We were doing some bad things, and ISKCON people came and they suggested that this is the things which we were doing, and they find it nice or good, whatever it is. So they come in Krishna consciousness, but they don't have that conviction. So this will of course not last long that much. So how come we can get that conviction so that we can fulfill Prabhupada's mission or support or help in this mission?
Yeah, so it is, look at the things that we are convinced about, right? Look at our experience. See that what are the aspects that we have experienced to be true. And start with that, build on that. So it's like you have to build a skyscraper. We start by building, putting one brick, and then gradually the skyscraper is built. So like that, we want to see, okay, what is it that I am convinced about right now? And focus on that. And then build on that. Okay, this is something I'm convinced about. Now let me see if this also works. And then let me see if this, what is my life experience, what is my personal understanding. So it's incremental. So as we try things out and we see that they do work for us, that we learn some principles and when we apply them, they improve the quality of our life. So generally, the purpose of philosophy is to help us make sense. Make sense of things that don't make sense. There is much that doesn't make sense. But when you study the philosophy, okay, why is the world like this? Why do bad things happen to good people? Or why do good people do bad things at times? There are so many things, questions that come up. And then just the normal conduct of life will bring questions. And then we try to see the answers that come from Shastra. If we consider that scripture like a manual, then I prefer the word guidebook rather than manual, because manual seems very simplistic. You press this button, this will happen. You pull this lever, this will happen. Life is too complicated to have any manual. But if there were a guidebook for a machine, what would happen? The machine would make better sense to us, and we would be able to function better with it. So similarly, you can see scripture will help us to make better sense of life. Our jnanendriyas will be able to perceive the world better. And scripture will help us to make better sense in our life through our actions. Okay, our actions will become more meaningful, more judicious. So if those two things are happening, make sense in terms of the jnanendriyas, we are able to better understand what is happening. And we make better sense in terms of our karmendriyas. So as we see this happening, gradually the conviction will become more and more internalized. Okay. Thank you. Maybe one or two questions? Yeah. Where is the mic? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, brother. Thank you for a valuable association. So during discussion of 9 process of devotional service, as you said, Shraddha keeps increasing as time passes. And so the same thing is happening with me also. Shraddha is increasing as time is passing through Bhajan Kriya and Sadhu Sangha. But one thing that always disturbs me on this path is there is no enough peacefulness of mind. So in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 5, verse number 29, Prabhupada says this is the peace formula, Bhoktaram Yagatapasham. So can you please tell me how can I apply this peace formula on my life to become more peaceful?
Well, peacefulness is overrated. Well, why I am saying this is if you consider a relationship, generally for many people, spirituality, they have more of an impersonalist idea. So you become peaceful, shant, and that is one aspect of it. But if you see there is a real relationship, in a real deep, serious relationship, there is a gamut of emotions. Sometimes in a relationship there is joy. So we love and care for someone and we meet them for after a long time. There is joy. Sometimes when two people care for each other, they may just sit together, they may not even talk, but there's like a comfortable silence. I mean, when two people don't like each other, there's a very uncomfortable silence. Isn't it? So now, there can be peace. Now sometimes, when two people relate with each other, there can even be anxiety. Say, if a couple have a child, and the child has had some accident in school, and the child has been taken to hospital. The mother and the father, both of them rush to the hospital. and the child is doing some surgery is happening. Now both of them are together, both of them are in anxiety. But even that anxiety brings them together. We are in that shared anxiety, we are caring for the child. So if two devotees are doing a service together and something is going wrong in that service, then sometimes the worry about that service can bring them closer to each other. So in bhakti, it's a relationship with Krishna. And the relationship can mean that there are variety of emotions. Sometimes there is excitement. Now we are trying to do something wonderful for Krishna and it's about to happen. Say we work to do a festival and the festival is just unfolding now. We are organizing a Rath Yatra, we are doing Janmashtami, we are doing some big festival. There's excitement. So in a real relationship, there's a variety of emotions. It is Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu. So it is Rasa Amrut, it is not just Shanti. Now of course, we all need a certain level of peacefulness. Now beyond that, a relationship can just give us a strong sense of purpose. And if you see in one sense, being purposeful and being peaceful can almost be opposite at an external level. When Prabhupada was sitting in Vrindavan, it was quite peaceful. Now, he was respected as a sannyasi over there. And when Prabhupada went to America, there was anxiety. He said, I didn't even know whether to turn left or right. But there was a deeper purpose. So, in the Bible it is said, the peace that passeth all understanding. What it means is, to the material vision, it doesn't look like peace. But at a deeper level, we are convinced, this is what I am meant to do. And I am a part of Krishna, this is what I am meant to do in the service of Krishna. And knowing that we are doing what we are meant to do, that brings a deep level of peace. Even if at an external level there is anxiety, there is uncertainty, there is fear, there are a variety of emotions. So first thing is that we don't just come to bhakti to be peaceful. We come to bhakti to develop a relationship with Krishna. Now having said, so that's why we shouldn't, that's why I started by saying peace is overrated. Now having said that, peace is also a need of the human mind. Just like we want some excitement, we want a variety of emotions. Like say, people watch horror movies. Isn't it? Why? You could say, to be horrified is also an emotional need. Well, like we have this bibhatsa, one of the rasa, bhayanaka, bibhatsa. So, we are stimulated by various kinds of emotions. So for some people the need for peace may be more, for some people the need for peace may be less. But that is also one need. So we do need to have some space where that need can be fulfilled. And if we find ourselves constantly being agitated and we are feeling ourselves insecure or fragile, bitter, we feel as if I'll break down at any time now the way things are happening, then maybe we need to withdraw, maybe cut down some responsibility at least for some time, and then do the things that strengthen us, that help us to become more peaceful. So that need, based on our particular situation, we can try to satisfy it and create the space for satisfying that need. But overall, bhakti is about having a relationship with Krishna. And that relationship brings peace, but that relationship is far bigger than just peace alone. Okay? Last question. Okay, yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, in previous classes we discussed about finding the right war and fighting. First thing to realize that we are in war. And then finding the right, easier wars. But Prabhu, what happens sometimes because of picking the wrong war, difficult things to do, and failing in them repeatedly, and the determination to fight a war or do anything gets lost. So the determination only gets lost. So it is very difficult to find anything to do. So that is very difficult to...
Yes, say one of my services is writing. So generally, they say if you want to write, you should read well-written books and you'll find inspiration. And this is the way things are written. So beautifully the message is conveyed. But I read in one writing book, they said you should read terribly written books. Which is why, after reading such books, you will feel driven by anger. If crap like this can be published, then I can also be published. So like that, we say the carrot and stick approach. So like that, the human mind is complex. And what will motivate us at what time? We can't have a predictable formula for it. So we can have positive motivations and we can have negative motivations. So positive motivations means that how by fighting this war I can become better. Say by studying Shastra, maybe 5 years down the line I can also become a speaker. I can share Krishna's message with others. I can answer difficult questions. That could be a positive motivation. But negative motivation can also come by knowing that if we don't fight a war, things can become worse. And we may say, okay, nothing will happen. That I'll just stay the way I am. But it doesn't work like that. See, Maya will be creeping in our consciousness. And as I say, if we don't define some boundaries, then Maya will keep attacking. Like China, just keep, and if we don't take, India doesn't take a stand, it'll keep encroaching. And that's how Doklam, the whole area now, is under Chinese control. So in Arunachal Pradesh also they're trying to do that. So what happens is that negative motivation also, if I don't fight, that is where I can end up with. One of my friends in Alcoholics Anonymous is there. He says that they have this principle that whenever they see an alcoholic, a person is drunk and like dysfunctional, I say, but for God's mercy, that would have been me. That means that if God had not been merciful to me, I might have ended up in that plight. So it is also that sometimes the rewards of winning can motivate us, but sometimes the dangers of losing can motivate us also. Okay, maybe I will not be able to win and become better, but at the very least I don't want to become worse. So in this inner war, we won't just stay where we are if we are not fighting. So we have to find out what motivates us. And we have to explore, and sometimes one thing will motivate us, sometimes another thing will motivate us. So we have to have ready an array of weapons and see which weapon will work. It's a tough battle. There's no easy formula because the mind is unpredictable. But we try various things and we find sometimes this will work, sometimes this will work, and sometimes that will work, sometimes nothing will work for some time. And then after that, everything will start working. So it's difficult. But keep trying, and especially one thing is if we have taken up some responsibilities, that helps a lot. Because in general, I'll conclude with this metaphor. You know this game of wall climbing? Is it common in India? Like people climb up a wall, you hold on to something and you pull yourself up, and you pull yourself up. So in general, for us, when we are trying to grow spiritually, it's like wall climbing. And there are these like objects, like grips we can hold on to. Now sometimes one grip will be right in front. Sometimes the grip will be far away. Sometimes the grip will be over here. So in general, for us, there are 4 grips. You have to find one of these grips. So, like one grip is emotion. I feel like doing it. Another grip is reason. This is good for me, that's why I'll do it. Another grip is relationship. That, I don't feel like doing this, but this is what this relationship means. Like a mother who has a baby, and the baby starts crying in the middle of the night. The mother can't say, this baby is crying too much, I don't want to be a mother anymore. No. No, a relationship means that there are certain things which we do in the relationship. So, and then beyond that is responsibility. So basically, for us, one of these grips will be there. So if we expect emotion to be the only grip, I feel like doing it. That grip may say sometimes way up, we can't even reach that grip. But then, okay, reason is there. Sometimes a relationship is there, And for this person, I don't want to displease this person. So for your sake, I will do it. So we broadly have these grips, and we try to have as many grips as possible. So if we take up responsibilities, then that will inspire us to do things even when we don't feel like doing things. So that's one way to take things forward. Okay, so thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. So I'm grateful to all of you for your very enthusiastic participation, your thoughtful questions, and your very engaged hearing. Generally, October, November is the time when I go to Australia, New Zealand. I think I've been for Durga Puja after many years I've been here. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you, and it is a joy to see how enthusiastic all of you were to hear and learn. I was telling Navami Prabhu that, that all of you are so enthusiastic that I didn't have to make any effort to entertain you. So many times you have to give a class, you have to become an entertainer. So I become tired of entertaining. So, but all of you are so interested that, I don't know if you are entertained or not, but I was entertained. So I'm very grateful to all of you for being so enthusiastic, and I pray that whatever we discussed about the journey of bhakti help you in moving forward in your relationship with Krishna, and that if it helps you in any way, you also pray for me that I can continue in my journey to Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki jai. So actually we are all indebted Prabhuji. I remember that Prabhuji, as Prabhu said, that Prabhu is during this time is in the West generally, but he was very conscious. Last year